The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale silver light over the sprawling military base, hidden deep within a forest that stretched for miles. The usual silence of the night was broken by the distant hum of engines and the crunch of gravel under heavy boots. But tonight, something was different. Something that sent a ripple of unease through the guards stationed at the entrance. A shadow moved swiftly between the trees. Her steps were sure and silent as she approached the massive steel gates that normally remained locked tight against any unauthorized entry. Her face was obscured by a hood, but the determination in her stride betrayed no hesitation or fear. The guards shifted nervously, whispering among themselves about the impossible. She was not on any roster. No one had cleared her name, and yet here she was, demanding passage into the heart of the base. The senior guard barked a question. "Who are you and what is your business here?" But the woman said nothing, only lifting a small badge that glinted faintly in the moonlight. The guards squinted, trying to make out the emblem, but it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The woman spoke again, her voice low but commanding. "I am here under orders from the highest authority." The senior guard frowned, his hand inching toward his radio as the tension thickened around them. Suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows. A man tall and imposing, with a face weathered by years of command, stepped forward. His eyes were sharp and cold as they locked onto the woman. The guards immediately straightened their posture. The commander said simply, "Who authorized her entry?" His voice was steady but carried an unmistakable edge of warning. The senior guard hesitated before replying, "We received no orders, sir. She is not on any manifest." The commander raised his hand, halting any further questions. Then he turned to the woman and said, "You are to accompany me now." Without waiting for a response, he led the way past the gates, leaving the guards stunned and confused. What was the woman doing here, and why did the commander risk his reputation to bring her in? The woman followed silently, her gaze fixed ahead as they moved deeper into the base. The buildings loomed around them like silent sentinels, guarding secrets that no one dared speak of. The commander's footsteps echoed through the empty corridors, his presence alone commanding attention and respect. The tension between them was palpable, as though each step brought them closer to a truth too dangerous to reveal. At last they arrived at a heavily fortified door. The commander punched in a code and the door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with screens and blinking lights. A handful of officers turned to look at the newcomers, their expressions a mixture of surprise and suspicion. The woman's eyes scanned the room, taking in the details, like a predator, sizing up its territory. The commander gestured toward a chair in the center of the room. "You will explain yourself now," he said. The woman removed her hood, revealing a face marked by determination and scars that told stories of battles fought and secrets kept. She began to speak, her voice steady, as she revealed a mission that would shake the foundations of everything the base stood for. The officers listened intently, their disbelief growing with every word. Outside the room, the night pressed in heavy and silent. The guards still whispered questions about the mysterious woman and the commander's unexpected decision. But inside the walls of the base, a storm was brewing, one that would soon explode and change the course of their lives forever. The tension in the dimly lit operations room was almost suffocating. The officers exchanged uneasy glances as the woman's words settled like a heavy fog over everyone present. Each breath felt thick with anticipation, as if the very air waited for what would come next. The commander remained silent for a moment, his sharp gaze fixed on the woman, trying to decipher every nuance in her expression. Outside the fortified door, the night deepened. The base seemed to hold its breath, as if sensing the storm brewing within its walls. The quiet chatter of the guards had faded, replaced by a nervous stillness that clung to the cold metal and concrete. A distant howl of wind swept through the compound, carrying with it a warning unspoken and unseen. The woman finally broke the silence, her voice low and steady, revealing a secret so profound that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of the command. They had uncovered evidence of a conspiracy buried deep within the ranks, a network of betrayal that reached far beyond the base, beyond the government itself. It was a threat that, if left unchecked, could topple nations and rewrite history. The officers leaned in closer, their skepticism battling with the weight of the truth unfolding before them. The commander's eyes narrowed, his mind racing as he weighed the risks and the consequences. To bring her here under his orders had already put him on a precarious edge, but to ignore her now could mean disaster. Suddenly, a harsh crackle came from one of the radios, breaking the heavy silence. A coded message flashed across the screen. The commander's face tightened as he read the encrypted warning. The conspiracy was already in motion. Operatives within the base were preparing to move against them, and the woman's presence was the catalyst that could ignite the powder keg without. A word, the commander moved to a secure terminal and began typing rapidly. The room buzzed with activity as officers scrambled to verify the information and prepare for the unknown threat. The woman watched silently, her eyes sharp and unblinking, as if she was ready for whatever was coming next. Then an urgent alarm blared through the compound. The lights flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. The guards outside rushed to their stations, the sound of boots pounding against metal, staircases echoing through the night. The base was on high alert, and every second counted. The commander turned to the woman. "You have to trust me now," she whispered, the weight of command heavy in his voice. "We are in this together." The woman nodded. Without hesitation, her jaw set in determination as the gravity of the moment took hold. As the door sealed behind them, the officers braced themselves for what lay ahead. The conspiracy was no longer just a secret whispered in shadow. It was alive and breathing within the very heart of the base. And the question lingered like a ghost in the room: who could be trusted when betrayal came from within? The night stretched on, relentless and unyielding. The battle lines were drawn not just in the corridors of the base, but in the minds and hearts of those caught in the deadly game. A game where every move could be their last, and the truth was the most dangerous weapon of all. The cold concrete corridors of the base seemed endless as the commander, and the woman moved swiftly past locked doors and shadowed corners. Their footsteps echoed like distant thunder against the walls. The silence between them was thick and charged with unspoken truths that hovered just beneath the surface. The weight of the mission pressed heavily on their shoulders, as if the very walls around them whispered warnings of danger lurking in every shadow. They reached a heavily secured elevator whose steel doors slid open with a slow, mechanical groan, revealing a dimly lit shaft descending deep into the heart of the base. The commander glanced at the woman, his eyes sharp and wary. This was no ordinary meeting place, but a fortress beneath a fortress where secrets long buried waited to be unearthed. The woman nodded silently, her gaze steely and unyielding as she stepped inside the elevator. The doors sealing shut behind her with a sound that seemed to echo like a final goodbye. As the elevator descended into darkness, the dim lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on their faces. The commander broke the silence. "We don't have much time," she said quietly. "The conspiracy is already moving faster than we anticipated." The woman nodded, her fingers curling into fists of resolve. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became, as if they were sinking into a pit of lies and deception. When the doors finally opened, they stepped into a room unlike any other, cold, sterile walls lined with screens and blinking consoles. The hum of computers filled the space, mingling with the low murmur of voices speaking in code. The woman scanned the room, her eyes sharp, catching every detail like a predator sizing up its prey. This was the nerve center where the fate of countless lives hung in the balance and where trust was a rare and dangerous commodity. The commander gestured toward a cluster of officers huddled around a large holographic map pulsing with points of light representing key locations. The woman moved forward, her presence commanding attention, and silence fell over the room like a dark cloud. The map displayed the movements of operatives and assets scattered across the region. Their mission was clear: intercept and neutralize the threat before it could ignite. Chaos. Suddenly, a flicker caught the commander's eye, a subtle anomaly in the data stream. His brow furrowed as he leaned closer. The woman noticed the tension in his shoulders and stepped beside him. Together, they pored over the information, realizing that someone within their own ranks was feeding intelligence to the enemy. The betrayal was not just a threat to the mission, but a dagger aimed straight at the heart of their loyalty. The room buzzed with whispered accusations and furtive glances. Everyone wondered who among them was the traitor. Their faces masked suspicion and fear as alliances shattered under the weight of mistrust. The commander knew that exposing the mole would be like navigating a minefield. One wrong step could trigger disaster. The woman placed a steadying hand on his arm. "We will find them," she promised, her voice unwavering. Hours slipped by like shadows shifting in the night. The woman and the commander worked side by side, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that seemed to twist and turn with every revelation. The lines between friend and foe blurred, leaving them stranded in a web of deceit and danger. Their only certainty was that time was running out, and the enemy was closer than they dared imagine. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The screens flickered and went blank, leaving them engulfed in silence. And shadow panic surged through the officers as emergency lights cast eerie red glows on their faces. The woman reached for a sidearm concealed beneath her coat, but the commander raised a hand, stopping her. This was no ordinary blackout, it was a calculated move to throw them into chaos and seize control. A voice crackled over the emergency channel, a distorted taunt that sent chills down their spines. "You think you can stop what is coming, you are already too late." The message ended abruptly, leaving a chilling silence that screamed of inevitable doom. The woman gritted her teeth. Her mission had become a race against not just enemies without, but enemies within, and the clock was ticking mercilessly as the emergency lights flickered back. To life, the commander rallied his officers. "Prepare for lockdown," he ordered. "Secure all exits and begin internal sweeps. No one was to leave the base until we find the traitor." The officers moved with precision and urgency, but the woman could see the doubt flickering in their eyes. The line between salvation and catastrophe was razor thin, and every second was a battle for survival. Together, the woman and the commander began a methodical search through the base, their footsteps echoing through the labyrinth of hallways. Each door they passed held secrets and dangers lurking behind closed eyes. They interrogated officers one by one, piecing together alibis and inconsistencies. The web of betrayal tightened around them, weaving a sinister tapestry that threatened to consume them all. In the depths of the base, a door they had not yet opened beckoned like a forbidden promise. The commander hesitated, his hand hovering over the keypad. This was the last piece of the puzzle, the final barrier between them and the truth. He glanced at the woman, who nodded encouragingly. Her eyes burned with a fierce determination to uncover whatever lay beyond. With a beep, the door slid open, revealing a room filled with files and data drives stacked high, like silent witnesses to past conspiracies. The woman stepped inside, her fingers trembling slightly as she sifted through the evidence. Each document told a story of lies, cover-ups, and hidden agendas. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became that The conspiracy reached into every corner of the base and beyond into the highest levels of power. A sudden noise made them freeze. The door slammed shut behind them, plunging the room into darkness once more. The woman fumbled for her flashlight as the commander moved to the console, trying to override the lock. Their breaths were loud in the silence, mingling with the distant sounds of footsteps closing in. The traitor had found them and was coming to finish what they had started. The flashlight beam caught a shadow moving swiftly across the room. A struggle erupted in the confined space, punches thrown and bodies crashing against metal cabinets. The woman fought with every ounce of strength as the unknown assailant tried to silence her forever. The commander joined the fray, his military training turning the tide as they subdued the attacker. Breathing heavily, the woman pulled back the hood, revealing the face of a trusted officer, someone they had counted on. The betrayal cut deep, leaving scars that words could not heal. The traitor hissed a final warning. "You cannot stop the storm. It is coming for all of you," before security arrived and dragged him away. As the door unlocked, the woman and commander exchanged a look heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. Their fight was far from over, and the shadows still whispered secrets yet to be uncovered. The conspiracy was alive and breathing, and they were running out of time. The heavy door clanged shut behind them, sealing off the dimly lit room where the traitor had just been apprehended. The woman and the commander stood panting, their bodies aching from the fight, but their minds racing faster than ever. The revelation that someone they had trusted was working against them twisted the knife of betrayal deep inside, leaving a bitter taste of doubt and urgency. Outside the walls of the base, alarms blared, echoing through the corridors like an angry storm warning of imminent danger. The commander's voice cut through the chaos. "Prepare for lockdown now." The base was plunged into a frenzy of activity, guards rushing to secure every entrance and exit while officers scrambled to shore up defenses and protect sensitive information. The woman moved swiftly, coordinating teams, her presence a beacon of calm in the growing tempest. The traitor had been silenced for now, but the message he had whispered still echoed in their ears. "You cannot stop the storm. It is coming for all of you." Those words were a dark prophecy that weighed heavily on their hearts. The conspiracy was not just a plot to undermine their mission, but a force of nature that threatened to engulf them all. The woman and the commander retreated to the command center, where screens flickered with live feeds from security cameras and encrypted transmissions. The tension was palpable, every face etched with determination and fear as they waited for the next move. The base was a fortress under siege, but the enemy was invisible, elusive, striking from the shadows with deadly precision. A sudden burst of static shattered the silence, followed by a distorted voice broadcasting across the base. "This is the end of your control. Your secrets will be exposed and your power dismantled." The voice was cold and merciless, sending a shiver down the spine of everyone listening. The woman clenched her fists, knowing that the battle was no longer just for survival, but for the soul of the base itself. The commander initiated a secure communication with external command, requesting immediate reinforcements and intelligence support. But the response was slow and cryptic, leaving them stranded in a perilous limbo. The woman stared at the flickering screens, her mind racing for a way to turn the tide. The traitor's warning was clear. The storm was approaching and time was running out. Suddenly, one of the officers burst into the room, a look of shock and urgency on his face. "They have breached the outer defenses," he gasped. "There are multiple intruders inside the compound, moving fast and well armed." The base was no longer safe. The woman exchanged a glance with the commander, her voice steady despite the rising storm. "We must evacuate the civilians and non-essential personnel immediately." This was No longer a contained operation, but a full-scale battle for control. Orders flew out like arrows through the command center as teams mobilized to secure evacuation routes and defend critical infrastructure. The hum of helicopters preparing for takeoff mingled with the roar of engines and the distant crackle of gunfire. The base was transforming into a war zone, and every second counted. The woman took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of weakness or betrayal. Amidst the chaos, a secure message appeared on one of the screens, encrypted and urgent. The woman decrypted it quickly, her eyes widening as she read. The storm was not just a metaphor, but a code name for an impending attack involving chemical agents designed to cripple and destroy everything they had been fighting to protect was at risk. The commander leaned forward, his face grim. "This is worse than we thought. We need to find the source of the attack and neutralize it before it's too late." The woman nodded, her resolve hardening like steel. Their mission had escalated from uncovering a conspiracy to stopping a catastrophe that could claim countless lives. With no time to lose, they divided their forces, sending squads to sweep the base, searching for any sign of the chemical agents or the attackers. The woman led a small team toward the lower levels, where the ventilation systems and storage units were located. The corridors were narrow and dark, their footsteps muffled against the cold floors every corner, holding potential danger as they advanced. The air grew thick with an unnatural silence that set nerves on edge. The woman signaled for caution, her senses sharpened to detect even the faintest sound or movement. Suddenly, a faint hiss echoed from one of the vents. Her heart pounding, she ordered the team to secure the area, but before they could react, a sharp chemical odor filled the air, and several members collapsed, coughing and choking from the toxic fumes. The woman acted quickly, pulling out gas masks from their packs and helping her team don them. The attack was worse than they feared. The enemy had struck from within, using the very infrastructure meant to protect them as a weapon. The commander's earlier words echoed louder than ever. The storm had arrived, and it was merciless. Back in the command center, the screens showed images of chaos as the chemical agents spread, threatening to incapacitate anyone caught in its path. Emergency medical teams rushed to contain the damage, but the situation was spiraling out of control. The woman's voice crackled through the radio, ordering a full lockdown of all ventilation systems to contain the spread. Her mind raced for a solution that could save the base and the lives. Within, suddenly the power flickered and went out, plunging the entire base into darkness. The emergency generators kicked in, casting eerie red glows across the rooms. Panic surged through the personnel as communications faltered and systems blinked. Erratically, the woman felt a cold knot of fear twisting inside her, but she pushed it down, focusing on the mission ahead. They had to regain control before everything collapsed.